Redditch is a large town and borough in northeast Worcestershire. Its history offers a clear lens on England's wider story, charting a path from medieval origins through industrial dominance to post-war planning and its present role as a commuter town. Early origins. The first recorded reference to Redditch appears in 1348 as the La Redditch, a name derived from the red clay of the River Arrow. The town's early development was closely linked to Bordesley Abbey, a Cistercian monastery founded in 1136. Following the abbey's dissolution in 1538, a small settlement grew around the crossroads at what is now Church Green. For much of its early history, Redditch existed as a chapelry within the parish of Tardebigg, positioned on the boundary between Worcestershire and Warwickshire. From the 17th century onward, the town began to specialise in metalworking, laying the foundations for its later industrial success. Industrial growth and county borders. By the 18th and 19th centuries, Redditch had become the global centre of the needle and fishing tackle industry. At its peak, the town produced around 90% of the world's needles. This prosperity supported related light industries, including spring manufacture through firms such as Herbert Terry & Sons, and later motorcycle production by Royal Enfield. Redditch's historic ties to both Worcestershire and Warwickshire remain an important part of its identity. While the borough is now entirely within Worcestershire, large areas of the modern town were historically part of Warwickshire. Ipsley Parish, which now includes Matchborough and Winyates, was transferred to Worcestershire in 1931, while the Warwickshire exclave of Tutnell and Coberley had been ceded earlier, in 1844. Railways and the Industrial Revolution. The arrival of the railway accelerated industrial expansion. The Redditch Railway Act of 1858 authorised a branch line linking the town to the Midland Railway at Barnt Green. Passenger services began on the 19th of September, 1859, and by 1868 the line extended south to Evesham and Alvechurch, creating a strategic rail loop. The railway survival was later threatened during the beaching cuts of the 1960s. The southern section closed due to poor infrastructure and declining passenger numbers, with services between Redditch and Alcester ending in July 1964. The track was removed the following year. A strong local campaign, however, preserved the northern line to Birmingham, ensuring Redditch retained a vital transport link. The new town designation. On the 10th of April, 1964, Redditch was designated a Mark II new town. This formed part of a national strategy to relieve housing shortages and overcrowding in Birmingham and the wider West Midlands following the Second World War. The Redditch Development Corporation was tasked with expanding the population from around 32,000 to a target of between 70,000 and 90,000. The master plan introduced new housing estates such as Church Hill, Matchborough, and Winyates, supported by a ring road system, extensive landscaping, and segregated pedestrian routes. Public transport was prioritised, and new employment areas were planned alongside housing, attracting major firms including Halfords and GKN. To simplify administration as the town expanded east and south, county boundaries were realigned under the Warwickshire and Worcestershire Boundaries Order of 1969. Areas such as Matchborough and Winyates, previously in Warwickshire, were formally incorporated into Worcestershire. According to the 2021 census, the borough of Redditch had a population of 85,070. Key town centre landmarks. 1. The Old Library. Built in 1885, the Redditch Scientific and Literary Institute, the Old Library. Constructed in red brick with stone mullioned windows, a clay tile roof, and a distinctive spire, it served as the town's main library for nearly a century. Later uses included an arts and catering college before conversion to offices in 2004. Now Grade 2 listed, the building stands on Church Green West as a notable example of Victorian Gothic architecture. Its pointed arches, decorative stonework, and prominent entrance remain intact. Today, it operates as a bar and restaurant, combining historic character with modern use. 2. The John Bonham Memorial. Unveiled on the 31st of May 2018 to mark what would have been John Bonham's 70th birthday, the 2.5-ton bronze sculpture dominates Merchant Square. Created by sculptor Mark Richards, it depicts the Led Zeppelin drummer in performance, surrounded by abstract forms inspired by rhythm and movement. In March 2025, the memorial was enhanced through the Rhythm of Redditch project, allowing visitors to activate a motion-captured digital performance via QR code. This addition has reinforced the site's international appeal to music fans and its significance to the town's cultural identity. 3. Redditch Library. Opened on the 24th of January, 1976, the modern Redditch Library was a flagship new town project designed by architect John Maiden. Built at £550,000, the 7-storey building replaced the former Church Green Library and remains the second largest in Worcestershire. It houses extensive local history collections and hosts community events. The building has become a point of debate following redevelopment proposals. A certificate of immunity from listing, issued in February 2022, prevents statutory protection until 2027, placing its future at the centre of discussions about heritage and regeneration. For St. Stephen's Parish Church. St. Stephen's Church stands at the heart of the Barnt Green conservation area. Built between 1854 and 1855 by Henry Woodier in the decorated Gothic style, it replaced earlier ecclesiastical buildings linked to Bordesley Abbey. Constructed from local Tardbig sandstone, it was extended in 1894 by Temple Moore, incorporating medieval tiles salvaged from the abbey ruins. Grade 2 listed, the church contains notable features, including a Bromsgrove gilt font cover and stained glass by John Baptiste Capronia. Still an active parish church, it remains a central landmark and a focal point for community life. Redditch as a commuter town. The decline of traditional manufacturing in the late 20th century reshaped Redditch's economy. Its retained rail link to Birmingham became central to its future. As part of the Cross-City Line, the route was upgraded and electrified, with electric services beginning in July 1993. This firmly established Redditch as a commuter town within the Birmingham travel-to-work area.
Stars of the midnight ranges, shining through the night. Stars of the midnight ranges.
The first railway station in Redditch was opened in 1859. It was built to serve the industrial town of Redditch in Worcestershire. This station gave the town its very first railway stop, which was located just off Clive Road. The station building itself was a humble brick and timber shed on a single platform, little more than a rural halt for the Midland Railway's branch line. In its heyday, a handful of steam trains would puff in from Birmingham, handling passenger fares and the odd wagon of goods. But this quaint little station hardly changed for 9 years. It was described as a simple affair, a single-story building on a short platform serving the single line to Barnt Green. In May 1868, when the line was extended southwards to Evesham, the little Clive Road terminus was superseded by a larger station, sometimes called Plymouth Road Station, which was a few hundred yards away from the original station itself. After closure, the old building passed into private hands, its platform left to history. However, it was soon demolished, and the site has seen numerous uses since. The line passing the site remains open for the Cross-City Line. The second railway station in Redditch was opened in 1868. It was built to serve the industrial town of Redditch in Worcestershire. This station gave the town its second railway stop, which was located just off Plymouth Road. It replaced the earlier station off Clive Road. In 1868, to serve the new Evesham line, Redditch got a grander station a little south of Clive Road. This second station had 2 platforms, with an iron footbridge and a handsome brick station building at Bromsgrove's Plymouth Road. What really set it apart was its vast goods yard at Pound Meadow just south of the platforms. Victorian-era records note that this yard could hold over 188 wagons, complete with cattle pens and a goods shed. It handled everything from coal, the top tonnage, to flour, coffee beans, butter, and even Peruvian guano for the local farms. For over a century, this was Redditch's railway heart. Passenger trains left daily, and freight engines rumbled in with raw materials for the town's industries. However, by the 1960s, the scene had changed. The line south to Evesham closed in 1962, and Redditch became a quiet terminus of a short branch line. In 1972, the old 1868 station finally shut its doors, replaced by a newer stop, to make way for town centre redevelopment, which later became the Kingfisher Shopping Centre and bus station for the town. The venerable platforms and iron footbridge were demolished soon after, ending an era of Victorian railway bustle. Today, nothing remains of the second railway station, which now forms both a pedestrian underpass for the railway station and a plaza for the bus station. The former railway tunnel towards Alcester is now sealed off by an industrial estate. The third railway station in Redditch was opened in 1972. It was built to serve the new town of Redditch in Worcestershire. This station gave the town its third railway stop, which was located just under the Bromsgrove Road Bridge. It replaced the earlier station, a short distance to the south, which was located off Plymouth Road. By 1972, the station site had shifted again. The new third Redditch station opened that February, built out in the old Pound Meadow goods yard on the north side of Bromsgrove Road. It was a very different animal, the single-platform terminus on the remaining single-track stub. The station building was modest indeed, almost temporary in style compared with its Victorian predecessor. It sat under the modern Bromsgrove Road Bridge and just east of the short tunnel under Windsor Street. Trains simply ran in from Barnt Green and stopped against a buffer. Passengers could literally step off under the flyover into the new bus interchange. This 1972 station never needed grandiose facilities. By then, it was handling only a few commuter trains to Birmingham. It lasted 20 years as Redditch's lifeline while the station square above slowly evolved into the Kingfisher Centre. Eventually, the planned cross-city electrification meant even this setup had to go. In the early 1990s, the third station was closed and removed, as a brand new electrified terminal was built nearby. Today, the site of the third station has been demolished, and an underpass and the short end of the stub track are all that remain of the station. The fourth railway station in Redditch was opened in 1992. It was built to serve the then new town of Redditch in Worcestershire. This station gave the town its fourth and final railway stop, which was located just off Unicorn Hill. It replaced the earlier station, which was located a few feet south of the present-day station. Today's station, the fourth incarnation, opened in October 1992. It was constructed on much the same site as the 1972 station, still tucked just off Windsor Street, but rebuilt from scratch to modern standards. The 1990s Redditch station features a simple brick and glass building and a long raised platform enough for 6-car electric trains. This design reflects its role as a suburban terminus on the cross-city line, shelter, bright lighting and level access rather than Victorian ornament. Since opening, the station has linked Redditch as a half-hourly terminus of the electrified cross-city line into Birmingham, a far cry from the handful of steam trains in 1859. Much of the old goods yard is now a car park and offices, but the station itself is integrated into the town's bus road network. Its only hints of the past are a tunnel portal and cutting visible beyond the buffers. In short, the fourth station is functional and modern, a stark contrast to the original 1859 building, but carrying on the town's rail heritage into the 21st century.
Stars of the midnight ranges, shining through the night. Stars of the midnight ranges.
Alvechurch's first railway station opened on the 1st of November, 1859, serving the small village of Alvechurch in Worcestershire. It connected the village to the growing Midland Railway network. Built on a noticeable gradient just south of the village centre, the station was modest but purposeful. It consisted of a single platform with simple buildings and a short goods siding capable of handling small volumes of freight. Like many rural Victorian stations, it was designed for practicality rather than grandeur, serving both passengers and everyday goods such as coal and agricultural supplies. For generations, the station acted as Alvechurch's main link to the wider region. Villagers could travel north to Birmingham or south toward Redditch, while local businesses relied on the railway for deliveries and distribution. Over time, the station passed through the major phases of British railway history, becoming part of the LMS in the 1920s and later British Railways after nationalisation. Despite widespread closures elsewhere, Alvechurch survived the worst of the beaching cuts in the 1960s, even as services south of Redditch were withdrawn. By the late 20th century, however, the station had become increasingly outdated. The original platform and buildings remained in use well into the diesel era, lending the station a distinctly old-fashioned character until plans for electrification and modernization finally brought its working life to an end. A newer station opened a short distance to the north of the station. The old station buildings are now private residences, with the platform since demolished. The second Alvechurch station opened in March 1993, marking a new chapter in the village of Alvechurch in Worcestershire's railway history. Built slightly north of the original station itself, it formed part of the wider electrification and upgrading of the cross-city line, transforming the route into a fast, frequent commuter corridor linking Redditch, Birmingham, and the wider West Midlands. The new station was deliberately functional in design. Long platforms, modern shelters, and improved access replaced the Victorian-era buildings, which were sold into private ownership and converted for residential use. Electric services soon followed, dramatically improving journey times and making Alvechurch a viable base for daily commuters. Further improvements arrived in 2014, when a second platform, a passing loop, a footbridge, and lifts were added. These upgrades increased capacity, improved reliability, and made the station fully accessible, allowing more frequent services to operate in both directions. Today, Alvechurch Station blends quietly into its village surroundings while performing a vital modern role. Though little remains of the original station in operational terms, its presence is still felt in the alignment of the track and the nearby historic buildings, a reminder that this busy commuter stop began life as a small rural halt over 160 years ago.
Stars of the midnight ranges shining through the night.
Barnt Green railway station stands as one of the oldest and most enduring railway spots in North Worcestershire, with routes stretching back to 1844 when it was opened by the Midland Railway on what was becoming a major route between Birmingham and the southwest. The station serves the villages of both Barnt Green and Lickey in Worcestershire, very close to the boundary with the city of Birmingham in the West Midlands county. The station occupies a key position where the cross-city line to Redditch branches off the Birmingham-Bristol main line. And over time, it grew into more than just another stop in the countryside. It became a real junction in the true railway sense. In the earliest years, Barnt Green was a rural station serving local passengers and the occasional goods train. The Midland Railway laid down staggered platforms because the surrounding landscape and early expectations of traffic made a more ambitious layout unnecessary at first. But everything changed in 1859 when the branch to Redditch opened. Suddenly, Barnt Green wasn't merely a stop on the main line, it was the gateway between the growing industrial heart of the West Midlands and the little town of Redditch and beyond. Throughout the late Victorian and early 20th centuries, the station saw steam engines, freight workings, and busy passenger services threading through its timber-framed buildings and across its footbridge. In the steam era, the junction was busy enough that signal boxes and sidings spread out around it, controlling trains on both the main line and the branch. By the 1960s, Barnt Green had survived the wave of closures and cuts that hit so many rural junctions. The Beeching report even listed the station itself for closure, but strong local opposition ensured it stayed open, albeit with a pared-back timetable. Services on the main line are called less frequently, leaving Barnt Green primarily served by trains on the cross-city line between Birmingham and Redditch. In the decades that followed, the station saw continued evolution. The grand old buildings were dismantled and replaced with more practical shelters as the focus shifted toward commuter traffic rather than heavy freight. The old footbridge that once connected staggered platforms was replaced with a modern crossing. And more recently, infrastructure upgrades like a new footbridge with improved clearance have been added to cope with contemporary rail standards and step-free access improvements. Today, Barnt Green is a busy suburban node rather than a sleepy rural stop. It's unstaffed but active, linking local travelers south to Redditch and north into the heart of Birmingham. Most journeys are short commuter hops, but a handful of services still connect farther afield on the main line toward Worcester and beyond. Even so, the station's role as the branching point between lines remains its defining feature, the role it's held for nearly 2 centuries.